From daring rope descents to secret tunnels, medieval prison breaks pushed human ingenuity to its limits. These incredible true stories of castle escapes changed history and inspired legendary tales that we still tell today. Let's explore one of history's most amazing prison breaks, the escape of John Gerard from the Tower of London in 1597. Gerard, a Catholic priest imprisoned for his faith, pulled off an escape that sounds like something from an action movie. After months of careful planning with help from friends on the outside, he managed to get orange juice smuggled into his cell. But this wasn't for drinking. He used it as invisible ink to send secret messages. On the night of his escape, his friends threw a rope soaked in dark dye across the moat. Despite having damaged hands from earlier torture, Gerard somehow climbed down this rope in the dark, dropping into a waiting boat below. The guards never caught him, and he eventually made it safely to mainland Europe. His detailed account of the escape, written years later, gives us an amazing window into this real-life adventure story. While Alexandre Dumas' Count of Monte Cristo thrilled readers worldwide, few know it was inspired by a real escape from York Castle in 1325. William Neville, a wealthy noble imprisoned on charges of treason, orchestrated an escape that would make modern prison breakers jealous. Over several months, Neville's servants, pretending to bring him food, secretly helped him dig a tunnel from his cell. Using basic tools like spoons and cups, they removed dirt bit by bit, hiding it in food containers. The tunnel eventually stretched 90 feet to freedom. On a stormy night, Neville made his move. He crawled through the narrow passage and emerged outside the castle walls. Unlike the Count of Monte Cristo's revenge story, Neville's tale had a different ending. He received a royal pardon years later and returned to his lands. His escape became a medieval legend, showing how determination and clever planning could overcome even the strongest castle walls. Now here's a love story that puts modern romantic gestures to shame. In 1716, Lady Winifred Nithsdale pulled off one of the most daring rescues in Tower of London history. Her husband William was facing execution for treason when she came up with an amazing plan. On the night before Valentine's Day, she brought several women to visit her husband, coming and going to get the guards used to the traffic. For the final visit, she smuggled in women's clothes. William shaved, put on a dress and bonnet, and pretended to cry into a handkerchief. Lady Nithsdale walked out with her crying maid, actually her disguised husband. The guards, who had seen women coming and going all day, barely gave them a second glance. By the time anyone realized what happened, William was on a boat to France. The next morning, when guards came for him, they found an empty cell. The escape from Château de Loches in 1431 shows just how creative medieval prisoners could get. Jean de Poitiers, a French noble locked in one of the highest towers, turned his bedding into a lifeline to freedom. The tower stood over 130 feet tall, about the height of a modern 12-story building. De Poitiers spent weeks secretly tearing his sheets and blankets into strips, carefully braiding them into a makeshift rope. He tested each section by hanging his bed from it, making sure it could hold his weight. On a moonless night, he tied his rope to his bed frame, threw the other end out the window, and began his heart-stopping climb down. The rope ended 20 feet above the ground, forcing him to drop the rest of the way. Though he sprained his ankle, he managed to limp away into the darkness. The guards found only an empty room with a bed pulled against the window. Martin Luther's escape from Wartburg Castle in 1522 wasn't your typical prison break, because technically he was there for his own protection. After speaking out against the Catholic Church, Luther's friends staged a fake kidnapping to keep him safe at Wartburg. Living under the alias Junker Jörg, Knight George, Luther grew restless in his gilded cage. He spent nearly a year in the castle, where he kept busy by translating the Bible into German. But when he heard about growing unrest in Wittenberg, Luther decided he had to leave. Unlike other escapes we've covered, Luther simply rode out through the front gate, swapping his monk's robes for a knight's outfit complete with sword and beard he'd grown. The guards, thinking he was just another noble visitor, let him pass without question. This simple but effective disguise let Luther return to Wittenberg, where he could continue his work that would help spark the Protestant Reformation. In 1462, Knight Rudolf von Habsburg vanished from his cell in Castle Heidelberg, leaving guards completely baffled. The secret? A forgotten passage built during the castle's construction. Rudolf discovered loose stones in his cell while scraping away old mortar. Behind them lay a narrow tunnel, part of the castle's original drainage system. Using a stolen candlestick for light, he spent 3 nights exploring the passage. The tunnel twisted through the castle's foundations before opening into a dry creek bed outside the walls. On a rainy night, when the guards stayed warm inside, Rudolf made his move. He squeezed through the passage, his armor left behind to avoid making noise. When morning came, the guards found an empty cell with no signs of escape. The passage stayed secret for another century until renovation work revealed its existence. Rudolf's clever discovery shows how even the strongest castles could have hidden weaknesses waiting to be found. The escape of Sir Roger Mortimer from the Tower of London in 1323 showed how a good dinner party could be the perfect cover for a prison break. Mortimer, a powerful noble who had fallen out with King Edward II, got help from a friendly guard who smuggled in some special wine. During a feast Mortimer hosted for his guards, they enjoyed this wine, not knowing it was mixed with sleeping herbs. As the guards dozed off, Mortimer used a pickaxe that had been hidden in a ham to break through his cell wall. He then climbed down a rope ladder thrown up by supporters waiting in boats on the Thames. The sleeping guards were found the next morning with terrible headaches, while Mortimer was already sailing to France. This escape changed English history. Mortimer later returned with Queen Isabella to overthrow King Edward II. The escape from Edinburgh Castle in 1298 shows how creative thinking could turn a simple wine delivery into a perfect getaway plan. 2 noble ladies imprisoned during the Scottish Wars of Independence came up with a brilliant idea when they noticed the regular wine deliveries to the castle. They convinced their guards to let them send out empty wine barrels, claiming they needed more supplies. But these weren't just ordinary shipments. The ladies had started sending their clothes and valuables out, hidden in the barrels. On the final day, they each curled up inside a barrel, cushioned by blankets. The delivery men, who were actually their supporters, loaded the wine onto their cart and rolled them right through the front gate. The guards even helped push the heavy barrels, not knowing they were actually helping their prisoners escape. The escape from Dover Castle in 1295 reads like a medieval heist movie. 5 imprisoned knights discovered something incredible: a Roman-era tunnel beneath their cell, hidden under loose flagstones. For weeks, they carefully widened the ancient passage using pieces of metal pried from their bed frames. They kept the noise down by only working when the chapel bells rang. The knights saved bread from their meals to bribe a young guard who gave them information about patrol schedules. On a moonless night, they lifted the stones and crawled through the tunnel, which led to a hidden cave in the White Cliffs. Using ropes made from torn bedsheets, they climbed down to a small boat their supporters had waiting. By sunrise, they were halfway to France, leaving the guards staring at an empty cell with a mysterious hole in the floor. The escape from Thun Castle in 1498 marks what many consider the last great medieval prison break. Baron de Graffenried, locked in the castle's highest tower for opposing the local duke, noticed something others had missed. The tower's decorative banners could support a person's weight. After months of watching guard patterns and testing the strength of these banners during his allowed exercise time, he made his move. On a foggy morning, when the guards changed shifts, he climbed out his window and used the series of banners like a ladder, moving from one to another. He dropped the final 20 feet into the castle's icy moat, where his son waited with a small boat. The Baron's escape was so well planned that he was halfway to Geneva before anyone noticed he was gone. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history's most incredible prison breaks. If you enjoyed these amazing escape stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Let us know in the comments which escape you found most impressive.